What did you get?
I bought something.
What'd you buy?
I bought an incubator and an egg turner because it's springtime and I need to hatch chickens. So we're going to take it home and do a full review for you guys on what the hatch rate is for this incubator. It is springtime on the farm, and with spring for us, that means it's time to hatch out some chicks. Now if you've seen our video from last year of the chicks that we hatched, you'll notice this is the incubator we use. Now this was a cheap incubator that we bought on eBay. For our first year hatching, we just wanted to try something to see what we could hatch. And we didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. So we bought this one, we put our first set of eggs in, and we only had 2 chicks hatch. Even though they developed almost to hatching stage, they just never hatched out. We tried it again, and our next couple of hatches, we got about 50% hatch rate, which isn't horrible, but this incubator only holds 12 eggs. So we were only getting about 6 chicks each hatch, and I wanted more. This year, we decided to upgrade. So, move that one out. This is the Hovabator. And I have been looking everywhere for these, and I actually found it the cheapest at our local co-op feed store. So I picked it up yesterday along with an automatic egg turner. We're going to unbox it and get it set up and show you guys how we get our eggs ready to hatch. The Hovabator is really simple to put together. It basically has your water tray that you fill. It has your grate to set your chickens on. This is the water tray that comes in the bottom, and it's labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. For chicken eggs, we're gonna fill tray number 1 to start, and then just before the chicks are ready to hatch on about day 18, we're gonna fill 1 and 2. It's gonna vary depending on the type and breed of animal that you're hatching, whether it's quails, turkeys, ducks. So just make sure you're using the right amount of water for whatever it is you're trying to hatch. This just goes right into the bottom. You put your grate over top. Now I also bought an automatic egg turner. It does not come with the egg turner. You have to buy it separately, but it just sits on top of your grate, and there's actually a little groove in the side for your cable to go so that it doesn't bother the lid. The lid has your heat cable, and then this is your temperature. So your thermostat comes in 2 pieces. You just got to put this little wing nut onto the screw, and then it goes through the bottom and screws onto this little plate. It's really easy to adjust. It has a couple of vents in the top, so if you get too much humidity, you can just pop those out and it lets it breathe. Basically, all I'm going to do now, I'm going to let this run for a few hours to get the temperature up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we'll be ready to put our eggs in. So the Hovabator's been running for a few hours now, and we got it up to temperature, which is just around 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to go ahead and put all my eggs in, plug in my automatic egg turner, and we're going to let it sit for the next 21 days and see how many chicks we hatch out. One thing to keep in mind about your eggs, if you've never hatched before, make sure you don't wash the eggs before you put them into the incubator. You want them to still have the protective bloom on them for hatching. So let's go ahead and take the top off. Feels nice and toasty in there. Remove our thermometer that shows our temperature. This is what we're going to set on top of the eggs so that we can make sure that the temperature is correct at all times. For our eggs this time, I'm using a mix of some of our barred rock eggs, some Easter eggers, and then some mixed Easter egger black australopes, and also barred rock crossed with some white leghorns to see what we get. I'm hoping to get some olive eggers for myself that we can keep because I don't have any that lay green eggs yet. So that's on my bucket list, and hopefully we'll get a bunch more that we can sell, as everybody's looking for chicks already. Spring is here and everybody's already on the hunt for new chicks. Hopefully at least half, if not more, of these chicks hatch out. We're going to be keeping a close eye on them to see the difference between this incubator and the one we used last year. These are my Easter eggers. This incubator holds 41 eggs. and our one that we used previously only held 12, so it's a big difference. Also, don't worry about if some of your eggs are a little bit dirty. They will still hatch out just fine. You always put them point side down, and these have been sitting for 24 hours to give the air bubbles inside a chance to settle. And there we go. I'm going to put the lid on and plug in the automatic turner. And these eggs will be good to sit for the next 21 days. I'm going to candle them at day 6 to see how many are viable, and I'll remove any non-viable eggs because sometimes they can give off gases that can actually prevent your other eggs from developing, and we don't want that. We want to make sure we give the eggs in there the best chance possible. So we've got our turner plugged in and our temperature. Let's not forget our thermometer. You want to make sure that you can see this through the windows. So I'm going to just put that one side and just place it right on top of the eggs. It won't hurt them at all, and your turner will still move. And that's it until we check and see how many of our eggs are viable. Today is lockdown day for our eggs, and what that means is we're going to remove the automatic egg turner, we're going to lower our heat by a couple of degrees, we're going to put in some extra water, and we're going to leave the eggs without touching them, and hopefully in a couple of days they're going to hatch and we'll have some new baby chicks. So I'm going to do this kind of quick. You don't want the eggs out of the heat for too long. We've been keeping them at a nice 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the last 18 days. Hopefully I can lift this out without dropping any. Very carefully. And then we're gently just going to lay our eggs back inside, right on the grid. Normally, you're going to candle your eggs on day 6 and 12, so you can have a look and see how your eggs are developing. What you want to see around day 6 is a little tiny blob with some veins coming off of it, and that means that the egg is actually starting to develop. And by day 12, you're going to want to see the egg about half full. So a solid mass that fills up about half of the egg. Then today on day 18, the egg should be completely full and solid. We're just going to move all of these eggs into our incubator and see what we hatch out. Okay, so I have all my eggs transferred. You want to try and do that kind of quick. Only took me a couple of minutes. I'm going to add my water. Now this tray is really handy because it actually gives you squares to fill up. And I'm going to put a little extra in our center here just to make sure it has enough humidity. We're going to put our thermometer back inside where we can see it. Put our lid back on. Hopefully put our lid back on. There we go. We're going to move this back over, and in about 3 to 4 days, we should have baby chicks hatching out. So you might be able to hear a lot of peeping coming from my incubator. We are on day 24 of our hatch day, and there's so many chicks in here that I can't actually count how many there are. They started hatching on day 22, and there's just so many of them. But because there's still new ones hatching out, the ones that are in there are kind of trampling them and standing on them, and they've been in there for 2 days now. So we're gonna just open it very carefully. I know everybody says don't open the incubator before everything's done hatching, but they're just trampling the new ones as they come out. So we're gonna take out the fluffy ones very carefully. It's still plugged in. We're gonna try and keep as much heat and humidity in there as we can. Move them to our brooder, and then we're gonna let it run for another 24 hours to see what else hatches out so we can count how many chicks we have. My assistant is gonna help lift the lid here as I grab babies.
1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this hatch is a mix of barred rocks and our Easter eggers. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and there's still 2 little ones in there that are pretty wet, so I'm going to leave them. So that gives us 23 total hatched chicks so far. So these are the ones that have hatched so far. You can definitely tell the pure barred rocks. They're the black ones with the little yellow dots on their heads. These gray ones are going to be Easter eggers. And the little yellow ones here, these are actually Leghorn cross Easter eggers. And you can see how cute and fluffy those are. This is my favorite chick so far. And this one may be staying here at Run Amok. We'll have to wait and see how attached I get. But we're going to move them into the brooder, show them where the food and water is, and get them all settled. So I'm going to put the chicks in here, and one at a time I'm going to dip their beak in the water so that they know where there's water to drink. So today was hatch day 25. All the chicks that were gonna hatch have hatched. They're in the brooder. This was actually a really good incubator. I had my doubts on it after we had a power outage with our last hatch and didn't get good results at all. But we ended up getting about 67% of our eggs hatched. We ended up with 27 chicks. And this incubator was really great. There are a few things that I would change about it. For example, there's no digital temperature gauge or humidity gauge. The more expensive model does have those on there, but the price is more than double what this unit was. So I think what I'm going to do is just order my own digital thermometer and humidity gauge so I can put it in there. The temperature gauge that comes with it, we showed you when we loaded it the first time. It's just a little card with a thermometer on it. And that was perfect until the eggs started hatching. Once they started hatching, the chicks were climbing all over everything. They knocked it over, they flipped it upside down, and I couldn't see what the temperature was. So I definitely want to get something that I can either mount inside or to the top that shows me what the temperature is. One good thing though is when the chicks did start hatching, the humidity went up really high because they're wet obviously in the heat. It comes with these little caps that you can remove, and there's 2 of them. And what it does is it just lets enough humidity out so that the chicks can start to dry, and it still leaves enough in there that your other chicks don't get stuck in their eggs and get shrink wrapped basically. One thing that was really finicky about this incubator is the temperature gauge. Now the only way to control the temperature is literally by turning this little screw right here, and it has arrows to say turn it this way to decrease the temperature and this way to increase it, and then it has a little locking wing nut so that you can lock it into place. But because there's no thermostat, it doesn't actually tell you what temperature, so you don't know how many degrees you're adjusting it with every turn, every quarter turn, so that's a little finicky. And I know on some of the higher models they have the digital where you just push the button, but for the price I didn't think the upgrade was worth it. I found this at my local feed store and it was actually half the price. I was looking at these on Amazon and I thought I would just check out my feed store, and they had them in stock and they were way cheaper than what I could get them on for Amazon. So I picked this one up, and then I actually had them order in the second one for us as well that we got. So make sure you check out your local feed stores, because sometimes you can get a good deal, better than what you can get online, and you don't have to wait for it. The other good thing that was about this incubator was the big windows on top. There's 2 big plexiglass windows. You can see the eggs, you can see the chicks really well, and it just makes it so much easier. Our one that we had last year, if you remember, it was kind of tinted, so it was really hard to see the chicks inside when they were hatching and see if any of the eggs were cracked, things like that. Now this one is styrofoam, and initially we didn't want to go with a styrofoam incubator because I've seen pictures online of people with duct tape holding them together because they've been beaten up over the years. But it actually hatched really well. I would like to have like a plastic cover or something on it. I would even pay a little bit more if it was a solid plastic shell just surrounding the styrofoam to protect it. I think that would be a really good upgrade for them. This is the Hovabator 1602N. So it's, I think, the lowest model you can get. There's several others above it. But overall, I was really impressed with this little incubator, and I can't wait to hatch out more chicks. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on the farm today, guys, as we welcome the new chicks. We'll see you guys in the next video. As always, thanks for watching.